let's get started. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the IP Lunch Club. My name is Mackenzie, and I'm one of the 6 team members of the Sandbox Center. For those who may not be acquainted with SBX, we're located online in downtown Barrie, and we connect people and their ideas to business resources so that they can create a better life through business. We're thrilled to continue our partnership with IP Osgood's IP Innovation Clinc. Protecting the ideas and creations of artists, inventors, and business owners allows businesses to grow and encourages innovation. For those who may not be acquainted with the IP Innovation Clinc, maybe you haven't attended our partner sessions that were held in our space in the past, or last week's online session. They are an innovation to market legal clinic staffed by law students and operated in collaboration with York University's Innovation York, Norton Rose Fulbright LLP, and the International Law Research Program at the Center for International Governance Innovation. They serve a clientele that is needs-based and underserviced, such as individuals or startup companies who do not have the resources to hire a lawyer, patent agent, or other advisors. Under the guidance and mentorship of supervising lawyers, Innovation Clinc fellows provide one-to-one legal information services to inventors, entrepreneurs, and startup companies to assist with the innovation and commercialization processes. The partnership that we hold is so incredibly unique to be able to provide the opportunity for students who have hands-on experience supporting businesses, and then similarly for businesses to have access to this expertise is such a win-win for us. But before I continue with introducing the IP Innovation Clinc team for today's session, we are grateful to have Barristan Law join us for this series as a presenting sponsor. The team at Barristan are not only an active and committed contributor to SBX on the regular, but continue to serve the local region when it comes to protecting business owners and improving innovation. Today, I'd like to introduce Chris Holmes of Barristan Law to share a few words. Thanks for joining us today, Chris.
Thanks, Mackenzie. I'm an associate lawyer here at Barristan. We're a full-service law firm operating out of Central Ontario, so Simcoe and Muskoka, with offices in Barrie, Collingwood, Huntsville, and Bracebridge. I'm a solicitor, and I practice in corporate, real estate, wills, and estates, and I do some IP work. So I know how important this is, what IP Osgood is doing, because so many of our clients, when you're getting in the startup stage, you don't have the funds to, get a trademark, get a patent, copyright, register for copyrights. And it may not seem like a big deal at the time, but 5 to 10 years down the road, that's where you come into issues, and getting everything set up right from the outset is vital for entrepreneurs, because IP is the bulk of your business. Making sure you have valid title and ownership to your IP is really important. And it's great to see what IP Osgood is doing and Sandbox hosting these presentations. So I'll give it back to Mackenzie.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. Thanks so much for Barristan for sponsoring this series. We love having you join these sessions. So today is part 5 of the IP Lunch Club. But can you believe it? I can't believe that a month has gone by full of amazing sessions. If you missed part 1 through 4, you can definitely check each session out on our website in the blog section, but don't go right now. Today, the team is going to introduce the newly launched IP Innovation ChatBot. This tool is the first AI-powered chatbot of its kind and aims to alleviate the problem of intellectual property illiteracy in Canada. If you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to use the Q&A feature or the chat, and we'll make sure to address them at the end. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Emma of the IP Osgood team to get us started. Thanks, Emma.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Once again, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us at the IP Lunch Club series. My name is Emma Abbas, and I'm an aspiring IP lawyer and a student at law at the IP Innovation Clinc. Mackenzie has given you a wonderful introduction to the amazing work the clinic does. I am coordinating today's session on behalf of the clinic. These students have worked hard to bring these informative presentations to you. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at the IP Innovation Clinc. This is the 5th and last of the 5-part series. We've enjoyed being a part of the Sandbox series this year, and we really hope that you can join us again next year. We would be grateful if you can fill out the survey, which will go out at the end of today's presentation. The information is available. The information is available in the materials, which will be sent to you through email. The clinic especially wants to support the underrepresented communities in Canada and highlight the creative intellect and talent these communities have to offer. So without further ado, please welcome Annabelle and Maggie. Thank you.
thank you so much, Emma and Chris Mackenzie, for that really great setup and welcome. I'm Maggie Barakis, and a clinic fellow at the IP Osgood Innovation Clinc, and really excited to join you today. And thank you so much for taking time out of your lunch hour to what we think is the most exciting topic of the 5 series. We're going to be sharing the brand new chatbot that we just launched earlier this year at the clinic. And, as Mackenzie and Chris sort of alluded to, really talking about a topic that's very close to us and very important to us. We're going to be speaking about, the value of IP to startups, entrepreneurs, and, why it's important for SMEs to really recognize the value they hold today and to protect it, and how we're going to be using the chatbot at the clinic to hopefully address that gap and help entrepreneurs and startups improve their IP literacy at no cost. So just to give you a brief overview, the value of IP, really IP is the modern currency of today's companies. 90% of the total value you can see on the screen there of the big tech companies like Microsoft and Apple are in intangibles, but we're also seeing an increasing shift with other companies on the S&P 500, not only the top 5 there, but more and more we're seeing companies' value is in their intangibles rather than their material goods. And at the same time, startups, the IP is really the most valuable asset and a company's competitive advantage. It's what can attract the investors or the VCs. And if we move to the next slide, you're going to see that Canada's the Canadian Intellectual Property Office, or CIPO, did a recent survey, and small to medium enterprises that hold formal IP, that's patents, trademarks, copyright, industrial design, they're 3 times more likely to engage in product innovation than those without formal IP, twice as likely to engage in other types of innovation, 4 times more likely to export, and 64% more likely to be high growth. And it's not on the slide there, but they also tend to be more likely to scale up and expand, and generally just are at a better position. At the same time, though, CIPO did another sort of survey and found that 83% of our SMEs don't seek IP protection because they felt that it wasn't relevant to their business. Going back to those earlier slides that I showed you, the perception is that IP is only relevant once you sort of make it to the Microsoft or the Apple level, or you're on this S&P 500, and it's simply not the case. So there's a real misperception that the government has identified that sort of needs to be filled between the value of IP and getting our entrepreneurs and startups to recognize it and see that they really do have some value that should be protected today. And that's more important now than ever, because we're now past the 1-year anniversary of in the pandemic. We've lost 2 million jobs since last year, and at the end of last year the federal deficit was 343 billion. And a lot of research has been done, especially around the summer of last year, even identifying that the way to replenish and replace those jobs is going to be through our SMEs. And SMEs, Statistics Canada, that's about 98% of businesses are small businesses, meaning less than 100 people. And so, recognizing that these companies have the IP that's not only going to replace and bring back jobs, but is going to sort of take Canada to the next step in terms of its innovation strategy is critically important. So if we go to the next slide, it's really here we've identified sort of 3 steps to sort of bridging that gap. The first step on the right there is affordable legal services, and that's what the clinic is doing now. So helping entrepreneurs, making it accessible. They can come in and ask their startup questions and IP questions. We do prior art, patent search, trademark search to help ensure that you don't make, costly mistakes, and that the IP that you have is actually, available and that you can protect it. And then the second step is really what we're here to talk to you about today. And that is, spreading awareness of IP basics that, myself, until getting to law school, there are a lot of things that didn't have any idea, understanding how IP works, and that it really touches on, everything that we come across. And so just, making it accessible, and that you don't necessarily need to go to law school to, have the basic skills to identify and recognize that, IP strategy is business strategy. So that's how we'll be showing, how the chatbot is aiming to get that knowledge into everyone's hands, and in an accessible, low cost, user-friendly way. And then, with those two components together, we're hoping that will help move us in the direction towards behavior change, where IP is seen as part of the strategy at the outset, rather than something later where it may be too late and you won't be able to be protected. So that's sort of the setup. I'm going to turn it over now to my colleague Annabelle, and she's going to get us into sort of the specifics of why IP is important to your startup and to your business.
Thank you, Maggie. Hi, everyone. My name is Annabelle, and I'll be telling you more about IP literacy, as well as how our chatbot is aimed at solving the Canadian IP literacy problem. So first of all, many Canadians, so myself included before law school, we actually have a very limited knowledge of IP. So for example, the only exposure I had was the little trademark or little copyright symbols that we see on packaging a lot of the times, and I would wonder, oh, what's that? But I wouldn't know much else. So IP literacy is a very big issue in Canada right now. So it is especially important for entrepreneurs to learn about IP in order to build their businesses, and also ensure that their business assets are protected so that their businesses can continue to grow. So the first thing on the journey into IP literacy that most entrepreneurs will sometimes encounter is uncertainty. So a lot of the times when entrepreneurs have weak IP literacy, it can lead to uncertainty about their company's intellectual property. So what this looks like is often you won't even know where to start. If you don't know what type of IP protection is the best suited to your ideas and to your products, then how would you know where to go and what protection to get and what is best suited for you and your company? And the second hurdle that we often get to is going down the wrong path. So the uncertainty that many entrepreneurs have can also lead them down the wrong path in their pursuit for IP protection. So when you have uncertainty on what type of protection you need, you can either avoid it and not get that IP protection when it could benefit your business and protect your assets, or you could even be pursuing a type of IP that's actually not suited to your purposes at all. And either path can be a very expensive and very costly mistake for entrepreneurs. You might lose out on being able to capitalize on your IP, or even leave your product to be copied by others. So the third step is hopefully finally getting to building an IP strategy. So when you have IP literacy, when you gain that knowledge, you'll be able to have the ability to better protect your business assets. So you'll be able to know when, how, and where to pursue IP protection, and you can have that ability to carry out some preliminary surveys or searches, and this can save you from traveling down the wrong path, as we've previously mentioned. And it would be better to also direct the building of an IP strategy for your company. So the effective IP strategy that you have can often allow a business to maximize the value of your intellectual property and also protect your competitive advantages. So an example of a very expensive misstep can be found in the issue of public disclosure in patents. So the government of Ontario actually lists understanding issues relating to public disclosure as a goal of its IP literacy strategy. So entrepreneurs can often unknowingly start the clock on their deadline to file a patent application. This can result in either a scramble to complete a patent application under a timeline, or your invention might not be patentable at all. And having IP literacy can really help us prevent this expensive type of misstep. So our response. Our IP Innovation Clinc chatbot, named Isaac Putin, is a student-led initiative that was funded by the Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada's IP Clinics program. So it was actually developed by a team of lawyers and technical experts at Norton Rose Fulbright, alongside students from our law school. So our AI-powered chatbot provides highly valuable IP information to help Canadian entrepreneurs. I'm not sure what's going on with the slide. So how does it help? First of all, it's an authoritative source. When people search for IP online, it's pretty overwhelming. There's a lot of blogs, videos. There's a lot of results from a variety of different sources. It can be even from the government, those from the SIPO as well. So our chatbot is an authoritative source on IP language. IP knowledge. Since it was developed by our law school, you can be assured that the information is correct and updated. Oh, sorry. And then the second part of our IP chatbot is that it's interactive, it's fun, and it's also low pressure. So the chatbot is a very fun way of getting your toes dipped inside the IP knowledge realm. So a large part of why many entrepreneurs shy away from IP is that it just seems so intimidating to approach. It seems very technical, and you can be very hesitant to just try to reach out to professionals as well if you know it's expensive. So with our chatbot, entrepreneurs are actually able to ask questions in a relaxed setting. And this can be the first step you take in approaching your journey to IP literacy, and also to learn about basic concepts that can be really helpful in building an IP strategy. So finally, it also serves under-resourced entrepreneurs. So as a first step in approaching IP literacy, the chatbot can actually be a stepping stone for entrepreneurs to start your journey and to learn about IP. So even if you have specific questions about your own invention or own idea, the chatbot is also a bridge to our Innovation Clinc, where entrepreneurs can actually access pro bono IP services and get started on their journey to building a wonderful new strategy. So now we want to give you a little overview on how our Isaac Putin or our chatbot works. So most entrepreneurs or inventors who come to our clinic usually have the same concerns and same problems and questions. So we try to offer like a non-intimidating and fun way to answer those questions for free. So at a very high level, the chatbot was actually built using 3 steps. So the first was assembling a question bank. So first, the chatbot required a bank of questions to work from. So we looked at different sources where entrepreneurs were asking IP questions and found different sources, including our clients actually, to build a kind of question bank. And next, these initial questions are inputted as intents within our system. So in addition to the initial intent or question, we actually brainstorm 5 different alternative ways of asking the same question. For example, how much does IP or how much does a patent cost? Or is a patent expensive would be the same. And then that would lead Isaac Putin, our chatbot, to better understand the question and the type of information that the client or entrepreneur is searching for. And the last step is actually testing and additional brainstorming. So once we have that initial intent plus the variations, the bigger team gets involved, and they actually will test the initial intent to make sure it works and brainstorm different ways to frame the same question. So this is important because one of the hardest part of natural language processing is learning. And we know that a lot of people can ask the same question in a bunch of different ways. And by improving and introducing these different ways to Isaac Putin, our chatbot can learn and be able to provide the same answer in a variety of different contexts. So one of the best ways to see our chatbot and see how it works is actually to go through it. So now Maggie will lead us on a demonstration of Isaac Putin.
Okay, thank you, Annabelle. Yeah, I think one of the best ways is, as Annabelle said, just to do a quick walkthrough. And while Annabelle brings that up on her screen, we're thinking, if we had an archetype of, say, an entrepreneur coming into the clinic, maybe somebody who has an idea that they think they'd like to patent. Usually one of the first questions most of us hear is, how much is this going to cost? So, our initial intent question may be, how much is a patent? And so on the back end of that initial intent, is linked to the responses that the team has brainstormed. When more people use the chatbot, Isaac Putin will sort of identify and get better at figuring out, what is it that they're looking for. So later when someone comes to the site and maybe types in, how much does a patent cost? I don't know if you can see it there. Well, if they were to type that in, or how.
Sorry, Maggie, do you see it?
You may have to reshare your screen, Annabelle.
Oh, okay. I'll try again. Oh, maybe I'm on the.
It definitely brought up the first tab, but I think just because you veered to, I think, a second.
Was it here?
Yep, now I can see it now.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you. So yeah, so you can see that how much does a patent cost, and above you could try, how expensive is a patent. You'll get the same answer. If somebody else were to come to the chat bot and type in, maybe they would phrase their question, why are patents so expensive? They'll all get the same answer. And, just to show you that we don't have just a patent question
Just
in
the
our,
one question.
in our data bank, if somebody were asked, how much is a copyright? They'll get the answer, and then we'd link directly to the sources that we obtained it from. So in this case, this would be the CPO database, so that as especially with copyrights and trademarks where there may be additional fees, we ensure that it's up to date, and the startups are getting the most current and accurate information. So the whole point of sort of taking you through it and typing in different variations of that question is we want to build a tool that's responsive and can answer your IP questions with the knowledge that you have today. So you don't need to go out and build figure out a new system or Boolean search or anything like that. Basically, what Google is doing for search, we want to do for IP knowledge, so that you can come in with however you want to phrase it and still get the answers in a really non-intimidating way, and just play around with it, and hopefully be able to take that away and understand the questions that need to be asked, and then come and when you come to a clinic or you meet with a legal professional to protect it, you feel a little bit more that you're able to engage with it and understand exactly what you're looking for. So returning back to our entrepreneur who has their questions about patents, they had figured out the costs, and we know it's going to be about $10,000 to $20,000 per patent. Maybe after that they want to know how long is a patent good for. Right. They may want to know, what does a patent protect? And who can help me file a patent? So these are just the fundamental questions that we are getting at the clinic, that we're identifying are being asked, that are really sort of burning questions, and that we want to sort of put out there so that we can help people and really empower them with the IP knowledge that's so important. And then, like all AI systems, the more questions that are asked of, Isaac Putin, the smarter it becomes. And, as more people begin engaging with the system and just asking exactly, their questions, the AI would get better at making those connections and recognizing, picking up on the nuances of the language to provide better answers. So that's sort of just an overview of the brand new chatbot, and we absolutely invite you to try it out and help us improve his language skills. But for now, we want to just open it up and take your questions. And again, thank you so much for coming out and joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks, ladies. This chatbot, I know for me, it looks super inviting. Even at the beginning of these conversations, I'm learning so much. And, it can be very daunting for a lot of first startups and entrepreneurs to take that step and know all of the legalities behind their products and innovations. So it's really cool to see this in action. And my first question kind of is, you are asking these basic questions to the chatbot, but say if you were to provide an example to the chatbot of sorts, like last week we actually talked about copywriting for artists, tattoo artists and designers. If you were to provide like an example to the chatbot specifically, would it be able to kind of give you some information, or would it refer you kind of to a fellow to kind of go in more depth to talk to them about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. At this stage, it's still referring to the clinic and to the resources, but that's absolutely something that I think as we develop it and sort of do it 2.0, that would definitely be a significant part.
Cool. Well, we have some questions in the queue here. I'll start us off. somebody's asking if you could give some examples of instances that start that when this clock starts running on a patent filing deadline.
So I can answer that. Public disclosure of any kind can actually get the clock started, get the ball rolling. So that can be anything, for example, advertising your idea to potential investors, going to a trade show and showing off your idea or showing off your product, and even publishing your idea in an academic journal or even a technical journal. That can actually amount to public disclosure and also get that clock started. So entrepreneurs should be very careful who they're showing their idea to before they get the patent and before they get protection for their IP asset.
Okay, perfect. Somebody's wanting to know what do you think the top 3 IP concerns are for startups to consider when they start out with trying to protect one of their innovations or ideas?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say, identifying your existing and future IP assets. It's IP strategy is very much business strategy, and avoiding costly mistakes is part of that. Running prior art searches or trademark searches to make sure somebody else doesn't already have your IP, and that before going down that road of investing, and that's where the clinic can really help out with that. If as that first step. Second, I'd say considering how you're going to keep your IP confidential. As Annabelle just mentioned, public disclosure can just be the end of a patent. And so, thinking about, are you going to avoid sharing certain information, or, limiting to generalities, or how are you going to talk about it in a way that sort of doesn't make it public. Sometimes talk about, NDAs or like non-disclosure agreements. And in some cases, those are feasible. But, they're sometimes hard to administer or enforce. If you're doing it at a trade show, it's awkward to pull out an NDA, and a lot of VCs or venture capitalists won't sign them before doing it. So I think it's mostly about thinking about how much you're going to share, and then I think there maybe would be how do your contracts protect your IP? I think a lot of startups. Myself, when I had running a small business, you are running on a shoestring budget, so may pull a template from the internet, but I'd say it's important to maybe invest in the proper IP, because the IP is the most important part, most valuable asset that you have. So investing in somebody who can help you tailor that, it would be super important.
Awesome, Maggie. Well, actually, on that topic, somebody else is asking how much money should be allocated to a company's IP budget at the start. I'm sure that's not something at top of mind that entrepreneurs obviously consider at the beginning. So what would your advice be there?
Yeah. Annabelle, do you want me to take this one? It's related
Sure.
to okay. I think it depends on probably the IP that you have in your budget and strategy. If it's copyright, the copyright works are copyrighted automatically once they're created. But you can register them if you want, just to have that extra protection for about $50. If it's trademark, sometimes, I don't know, it depends if you want to do just for the start, just be working off common law rights before registering, but registering starts about $300, and then there's additional fees, renewal fees or additional goods and services, and then but if it's patents, and there's the big chunk of about $20,000 from start to finish, that's something else to consider. So I think the short answer is depending really on the type of IP you hold, and that's why it's important to sort of take stock and understand what IP you hold, and then how you're going to protect it.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. Annabelle, if you have anything to add, feel free to chime in. The next question we have here is, I think you actually might have answered it in the chatbot itself. When somebody's asking how much does it cost on average to register a patent from start to finish. So I think you may have answered that, but maybe you could just verbalize it again for us, if you don't mind.
Right. So for how much the patent costs is actually, as the chatbot said, Isaac Newton. It's actually ranges from around $10,000 to $20,000, but there's actually also application fees and also a yearly maintenance fees as well on top. So once you get your patent, you will have to continue to pay those fees if you want your patent to stay valid and protecting your IP.
And can you file your own patent or trademark, or do you have to get a law firm to do it for you?
So for filing your own patent or trademark, it's actually possible. If you go on the CIPA website, they have a very detailed guide taking you step by step, teaching you all of the things that you need to do and all of the background knowledge. But we would actually, it's highly recommended by Isaac Putin, if you ask him, that you actually engage a legal professional to do so, because it can actually save you a lot of time, money, energy, and help you build a more robust IP strategy. So it can be very, very complex, as just a peek at the CIPO guide would tell you. So if you wanted to check that out and see if you can do that, you can feel free to go online and go to the CIPO website and see what the process looks like. But of course, if you want to have like a very robust IP strategy, protect your assets, and just know that it'll be protected, and for the long term, it is recommended by IP or Isaac Putin that you engage a legal professional when you're trying to file a patent or a trademark.
Perfect. And have you guys been noticing more of an uptake in the use of the chatbot rather than people directly, I'm sure, inquiring to the clinic via inbox or phone? Have you seen kind of like a difference in interaction now that the chatbot has been launched?
I don't know if we've seen any less. I think it's still pretty busy, but it's just sort of, I think it may help answer those initial questions. But yeah, that may be different for different people running the team. The coordinators may have a better answer for that.
For sure, no worries. Somebody's asking if we wanted to dive deeper on a question that they asked the chatbot. How do they go about this, and who would they contact?
So I think the first step would be to check out if there's a link at the end of the answer from Isaac Putin. So for example, sometimes they'll say like, you can check out more here, and then you can click on it. But for specific questions that for like specific products and things that a client may want to do, for example, sometimes our chatbot will actually direct them to our inbox and ask them to contact us for more information or for some pro bono IP services. So it actually depends on the question, but a lot of the times it'll either send you to the CIPO website where you can check things out for yourself and read the guides there. Or if you have a very specific question to your business, then it'll ask you to contact us and see if we can help you.
Awesome. Well, that's great. I think, there's one more question here. Feel free to ask away. We have a couple more minutes, but I think there's two other that they had already answered. Somebody's wanting to know, when do fees start incurring when contacting IP Osgood Innovation Clinc?
Okay, so sorry, Maggie, do you want to answer this?
No, go ahead.
Okay, for IP Innovation Clinc, we actually offer services pro bono. So we'll do a consultation with you. And then after the consultation, if you decide to engage our services, there's actually an administrative fee of $50, a nominal fee. And that's actually all the fees that we take. So it would be after your consultation, when you've decided to engage our services, that's when we take the $50 nominal fee. But before that, nothing. And after that, nothing. So after you engage with us and you decide to do, for example, a trademark search or a prior art search, then the $50 would cover it. And the clinic fellow or the supervising lawyer would be available to help you with whatever search or information you wanted.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Thank you all for the information that you provided us for today. I'm so glad we now know about this new chatbot. It's such a great asset to have, and for us to be able to refer to as a resource for so many people that are looking into patents and copyrights, etc. So I'm super pumped about this. Thank you both for taking the time out of your day today to give us this information. And for those who joined us, I hope you were able to take away some insights that can be applied to your business and feel a bit more confident when it comes to the importance of protecting your ideas and innovations. So this is it, the last of the series. I want to thank Alex and Chris from Barristan Law for joining us and for sponsoring this series. It's been a pleasure to have you along for the month. Also, the whole team at the Innovation Clinc. It's been an amazing month, so thank you. Like I mentioned before, or you can catch all of the previous sessions on our blog page at sandboxcenter.com. Alternatively, you can go on the IP Innovation Clinic's website as well. We will be sending out this session recording for all the registrants today, and as well as the survey and a link to the chatbot itself. As far as we hope to see you guys again next year, we encourage you to stay connected with us on and the IP Innovation Clinc on social. So give us a follow if you haven't already. But thank you again so much for joining us, and we wish you all a wonderful rest of your week and long weekend ahead. Yay. Thanks so much again. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.